All right. Hello. This is Tuesday, November 21st, and this is the Kubernetes Sig Docs weekly meeting. Let's start as we always do by asking if there's anyone here as a new attendee. Does not look like there is. So, all right. Let's start with a follow-up on versioning for documentation. I realized that after our meeting on Halloween that I completely forgot to follow up on November 7th to have a further talk about versioning. So we had talked on October 31st about Steve putting together a prototype of what versioning might look like. I know, Steve, you've been really busy with auto-generated reference docs. Do you want to say a little bit about where we're at with versioning and about what are you still looking at doing a prototype? Where are we with that?
We have versioned docs. I don't quite remember where we left off with the conversation, but if you want to present and go to the doc set, we can take a look at what we have. So up there in the upper right-hand corner next to case studies, there's that there's a little pull-down menu that starts with v1.8. Yeah, so say if you go to the 1.7 docs, this is what they look like. Every page has this big warning that says this is not the latest doc set, it's not maintained, and a link back to the latest set. And this works pretty well if you follow links within this doc set. It stays in the 1.7 set. The problem is that if you're here and you search for something, it doesn't stay in the 1.7 set. It takes you just into a general search, and it'll give you a result in the most recent doc set. So like if you search for persistent volume or whatever you want to search for here. That top result there then takes you back to the main, to the 1.8 docs. And I thought we had issues opened on this, but I can't find them now. But I know we've had feedback in some format that says this is a problem, that site search doesn't respect the versioned docs.
Yeah, there was feedback from Joe Beta related to that, and the versioning also doesn't work on browsers other than Chrome. It hides itself, so you can't select the lower versions on things like Safari and some of the other browsers.
Oh, I didn't know that. We better fix that. Yeah. Okay. So that's where we are with that. I don't know. Anything else? Did you have anything else to add to where we are and what needs to be done?
The other piece that I remember from the conversation was talking specifically about code samples and the difference in format. I can't remember which particular was it the API header?
Yeah, it was the app extensions versus the versioning of that changed, and then it wasn't working in previous versions, like with Minikube not having a 1.8 cluster for a long time. Our examples got helpfully updated, and that kind of screwed up a bunch of people.
Right. So we talked a lot about how to handle those things in particular, and it seemed like we were approaching consensus on introducing code samples with like a version requirement saying you need to have Kubernetes of at least X version in order to use this code, where we are specifically aware of version changes to code samples. And I mean, that seems reasonable to me, but I wanted to affirm that that was where that was where in fact we were headed. Does anybody remember differently? Does anybody have any counterpoint to that?
So let's go to a certain page. Let's see if I can remember what page this is. It's in tasks. Run applications. Run a stateless application using a deployment. So I did a little bit of work to try to alleviate this problem. If we go down, you can look at when we have our first YAML file and see. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It's up in the before you begin where we made an adjustment. What?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so see, we have, yeah, I just have this one extra sentence. This is part of an include. So this gets included, and it says different things depending on your page.version variable. So we at least tell the person that to do what you're about to see, you must have Kubernetes server version 1.8. So that I had forgotten about that. Was that the discussion you were thinking of when you started? Okay.
That was, and I'm also
yeah.
seeing an update in the YAML file itself. There's this lovely little code comment for versions before 1.8.0.
Yeah, someone else added that. Anyway, so we've done a little bit to help people understand. Okay. I thought we had a link maybe back to the 1.7 docs or something like that. You know, some statement that said, if you don't happen to have 1.8, you could look here, but maybe we haven't gotten to that yet.
Okay.
I think that comment in the YAML is sufficient because then they know what to switch it to and why.
Yeah, agreed. I don't think we need to over-engineer. Like a link back would be cool, but at this point, I feel like I agree with Andrew. I think the code comment is going to be sufficient there. And Steve, the change that you made to the include in before you begin, I think that's awesome, and that will work. So,
okay, yeah.
So then we just need to make sure that there are issues open for preserving version and search functionality specifically. Okay.
What was that last point again?
We need to make sure that there are issues opened against preserving version for search results.
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't have any sense of how you do that. Does anybody know how you would do that?
It's problematic because right now we specifically have in the headers like the no indexing, so that like the different versions don't get put in the general search results.
Right.
So I'm not quite sure how to separate them out so you can still just search within there, but they don't end up in the regular Google results.
Yeah, and we really don't want them in the general search index. You know, we don't want people just out on the internet somewhere searching for something and ending up in the 1.7 docs. So yeah, let's keep thinking about it, but right now I don't know how we would do it.
No, that's totally fair. Yeah, no, that's a stumper. I have no idea either.
Yeah.
I mean, if nothing else, we don't have to open a PR against it, but we can at least open an issue saying we're aware of that this is how things are. It looks super problematic. We're not sure. Shrug emoji. We're not sure how any of this goes. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing so I can start taking notes again. Open.
Zach, Steve, this is Joe. I pasted in the bug that Joe Beta had opened related to the versioning and the linking through things that was a little strange. And that's also where I referenced the versioning not working on Safari.
Yeah, cool. Okay.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about, let's do a short update for doc sprints at KubeCon.
Zach,
yeah.
I was just looking at the docs project that Steve created, in GitHub, and there are a couple more issues in there. So I can give you the numbers if you want. Against the versioning problem, I guess some of them have been closed. It looks like there's been confusion about it for a while. In case those are useful or interesting for historical purposes.
Okay. Do you mind? Do you have edit access to the meeting agenda? If you don't, you should.
No,
I think she should.
I'll add that. I'll stick them in there.
Okay, cool. Thank you. And then we can try to bring some order from chaos, or at least preserve a decent record. Right. KubeCon update for doc sprints. I sent out the advance notice to participants asking folks to please sign the CLA in advance of the sprint. Because the less time we wrangle the CLA, the more time that we have for pushing PRs, etc. We are at capacity for the event, which is awesome. Let's see. If there is anyone else who is not, if you are interested in participating, but you're not going to be at KubeCon, we can definitely use more reviewers for PRs that sprint participants open up during those times. So if you're going to be online between between 1 and 5 Central Time, that is an excellent opportunity to participate and get some quality PRs reviewed and pushed against the documentation. Let's see. In terms of people who are going to be at KubeCon and willing to help facilitate, I know we have Andrew, myself, Radhika is going to be there as well, which is big yay. Is anyone else planning to be at KubeCon and is willing to be a facilitator?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Oh, excellent. Ray. Okay.
I was about to say, I hope Steve's going to be there.
Hey, Zach. So for that email that you sent out, like I noticed you, I was talking with Jennifer about it, and we noticed you linked the user journey stuff to the issue. And I thought we had discussed not making it so broad, like and giving them more specific, pieces, related to user journeys, but like to not open it up to like sort of like the whole kind of framework, but just like give them specific tasks within that. So I don't want to. So we were gonna put together like a survey to send to them, so we can ask more specific things and then know kind of what to assign them more appropriately. And I'm trying to think now how to word that so that we don't confuse them.
That's sorry. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Well, I had a couple of thoughts about this too, because I saw the email yesterday, and this is partly, Zach, I feel like I owe you an apology. It occurred to me after Andrew and I were talking about this that we should have looped you into. But I think, so one of the things that I think might be useful to do, I've been looking again at Steve's project, and we've got that column in it now. So many GitHub tabs. We've got that column for the doc sprint. And I was wondering whether we maybe wanted to make a doc sprint project and sort those issues out a little more clearly. That would let us create some sprint specific issues around user journeys. We could even make a user journeys column. And then if we send out the questionnaire, we can send it out with an email saying, sort of please go here and take a look at this link instead. We're refining the work that we're doing. I don't think it does any harm for people to look at the larger context of the issue. And, if they poke around, they're be some of the discussions about user journeys anyway. But if we do it like that, then we can invite them to think in a more focused way without saying, oops, we're sending you guys mixed messages. And I think it might help us plan the work a little more easily too. I look in that doc sprint column of the project, and I start to feel a little overwhelmed, and I think I know what most of those issues are about. That's partly because I'm thinking in terms of user journey stuff. There's also some issues related to what would be useful for the user journey that I've been working on that aren't in there yet, that I feel like I need to refine to make them doable within the context of a doc sprint. Like, if I'm not going to get to the Minikube docs before then, and it's starting to look like I might not, that is, I should at least provide better ideas about how to get started there so that we can give people something that they can get done in the space of a few hours. Because that's definitely going to be something that we need to iterate through. We're not going to get it all done on the first pass, no matter who does it or when they do it, right? So I understand, we've tried to make the doc sprint stuff, easily, sort of bite off and finish chewing sets of things. I've got a vested interest in some specific, potentially bigger things. I'm still trying to break them down to make them more digestible, and I will stop murdering that metaphor now. Anyway, those were my thoughts about how to organize the work for the sprint generally and how to communicate that out ahead of time.
Yeah, I think it'd be fine to create another project if you'd like to do that and have one project dedicated to the doc sprint. That's what you're thinking?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then more, split into different kinds of things. I think that's probably a good idea. Do you want to do that?
Sure.
Okay.
I just started thinking about this in the last, 20 minutes. So I haven't really explored an implementation yet. But, it looks pretty straightforward. I'm not completely sure how many permissions here I have to do things, but I will ping you all on Slack if I run into any problems.
Yeah, just ping me if you need help with that. But I think it's a good idea also to do a GitHub project for that.
Cool. No, I apologize for causing confusion. It is inadvertent. I had the same.
I don't think there's any foul anywhere, right? People are having conversations, and then after the fact, you think, oh, somebody else needs to know this too, and we're all trying to sort of get in and help. It's
right, but at the same time, I would like for our SIG to have. If our SIG is going to have a mascot, I would prefer it not be the shrug emoji. I mean, it's very, very honest.
No, it's definitely not that. We're doing way better than that. I told you that in Slack.
Fair, but so I think it will be fine if we follow up with that initial email by saying, hey, we're refining this into more discreetly actionable items and a more discreetly actionable way to look at the scope of what's possible and doing as much advanced work for participants as possible. So yes, having a dedicated project that is scoped entirely to the work of a sprint session, I think makes a lot of sense. And I think that we can absolutely follow up with a poll saying, hey, what are you most interested in pursuing? And I think we can iterate without causing or worsening confusion, as the case may be. So I tell you what, I will schedule a short meeting with you, Andrew, and Jennifer. And if anybody else is interested in this as well, happy to invite you as well. Is anybody else interested? Does anybody else want to come talk about chunking out the work of a doc sprint?
Yeah, I should probably be in on that.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be good. I started a Google form for a questionnaire just based on Andrew's and my conversation last week. I'll share it with you guys.
Okay, cool. I will set up a meeting where we can really just sync up about all of this and have a more coherent plan, I guess, where we are all aware of what we are all doing. And since we'll be facilitating the sessions themselves, get a chance to sync up about what that might actually look like in advance. Okay. Next on the agenda, we have auto-generated reference docs from Steve. So Steve, take it away.
Okay, let me see if I can get the notes in front of me. Maybe you could, as we hit some of these things, can you click the links so we can present?
Let's
see.
Absolutely, I think.
Let's see. So yeah, I've been looking into this, and for a while I was concentrated on just the working on the code that generates the Kubernetes API reference docs. And I've set that aside to look at the bigger picture, and just for Q4, at least for what I think I can get done, it's to just understand what all the different generators are, and get the process documented so we understand it, and anyone else who wants to understand it has a place to read about it. For us, we have these documents that we're using for our discussion. Joe has this document, and I see this as the where we have our main discussion, we have our long-term vision, and we just keep talking about things in this document. The one after that, that's called Proposal for Q1, that was just my thoughts about what I think we can realistically get done in Q4 and Q1. And I think what that is we can see what all the existing processes are, understand how to do them ourselves, get that documented. More and more, it seems like people feel there's no need to keep any of that a secret, so that it can just be documented to the general public in our kubernetes.io site. That if anybody still thinks that's not a good idea, speak up. But that seems to be the thinking, is that we can just make this public information, how you auto-generate docs. Then we probably don't need to click into each of these, but we have an issue where we're tracking this work on getting all auto-generated reference docs into this folder called docs reference generated. And that's going well. I think what I'd like to take a look at, though, is this work in progress PR for documenting the generation process. So everybody can see what I'm in the middle of here.
Do you want me to click into the files changed?
Let me see. Yeah, let's look at that. So I've added this section under Home, contributing to the documentations, this section, updating automatically generated ref docs, and it has several skeleton pages, one page that's in pretty good shape, and more pages to come. So if any of you want to, just follow along with what I'm doing and comment, that would be nice. If we go to the back on the meeting notes, the link right below this, that'll take us to one of the pages that's in the preview.
With the YAML link right here?
No, see where it says work in progress PR for documenting the generation, underneath that preview topic. So what I've done here is to get started, I've documented everything I can find, just because I felt like I needed to understand it. I found this kind of confusing. And with the idea that we might not keep this all as public information, but right now this is just the place where I figure we can all see what we have and talk about what we want eventually. So there's this script called gencubdocs.sh, and it calls 4 different Golang programs, each of which does a different thing. And I had some big surprises when I looked into this. If you go down a little bit, we can see that there are markdown docs for these components, like up just a shade there. Yeah, these components like Kube API Server, Controller Management, each of those has a markdown document generated, and then we have to manually copy those over to our Kubernetes website repository. But what I didn't realize is that if you go down, we generate these files in other formats too. Here are some kube control docs, but down below there are man pages and YAML. Yeah, I didn't know about this. We generate man pages.
That is shocking.
What the heck? And somebody's actually publishing these. So if you click on where it says example Kube Controller Manager down at the bottom there. Did anybody know about this?
Holy cats.
We have this content sprinkled all over the, I don't know, how
I was
old
aware
this
of it, but I
document
didn't know
is.
it was actually published.
Yeah. And then if we go back, we can find another link where someone else has published a really old man page. See that one? Yeah, Kube Control Create. This is from 2000. What is this from?
2015.
January 2015.
Wow.
I was never certain how they got absorbed into RPMs or Debs and then published through the various providers. I knew that they were there, but I think when Fabrizio was actually asking a couple weeks ago, nobody answered the question of how they go from in the documentation repo out into the internet where they're clearly being found, but I don't know what the process is.
You mean these man pages?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I put it in the topic for now, just because for now I want this topic to be our place for seeing what we have and talking about what we want to do. But I think it's bad to have multiple copies of a given page all over the place, because it's just harder to find the one we want, for search, to find the one we want them to find.
Absolutely.
And then there are also YAML files. So if we go back to that, the topic where we get markdown files, we get man page files, and down at the bottom of this, we also get YAML files. And I don't know if these are published anywhere or if they're used for anything. Daniel Smith proposed this in an issue some time ago. He said it would be helpful to have the docs not only in Markdown and man page format, but also YAML format. And so that got done, but I don't know if anybody actually uses these.
That is, genuinely surprising. Sort of like an archaeological dig.
Yeah. And so one more thing I should point out, if you go up to the, up above, we're in the Kube Control docs, so a little down now. This one, gen kubecontroldocs.go. This thing generates a whole bunch of markdown files. It generates one called kubecontrol.md. That's where you can look at a single page that says, okay, here's the kube control command, and these are the options for the command. But then it generates a whole bunch of other markdown files that are things like kube control create and kube control apply. And now that we're using Phil Whitrock's other way of publishing kube control documentation, those aren't used. We don't publish those. So out of all of this, the only thing we actually publish is kubecontrol.md. And you can probably, if you see where in the sentence right after the bulleted list, it says kubecontrol.md is published here. Let's click that. So this, of all that, this is the only one that we actually still use. The rest of them are generated by a different tool. and they're published as a single giant file instead of a bunch of individual files for commands. And if you click on any one of these commands, we'll see that. So this is the single giant file that comes from Phil Whitrock's tool that has all the kube control commands. So part of what I found confusing is that, you know, we have some duplication, and we have, you know, in the way of, we got man pages, YAML files, and markdown files, and we also have some duplication in the sense that we have two different ways of generating kube control docs, and only one of them is published on our site.
Sure.
Hey, Steve, one little tidbit in there. I
Yeah.
added a comment into the meeting notes, but that one giant file that Phil Whitrock creates, that's also generated from a bunch of code that is only in his repository. Brodocs is what it's called. It's a bunch of Node.js code that generates that massive HTML. I think you'd already spotted it, but I wanted to call it out as yet another tendril.
Right, yeah.
I'm going to stop sharing.
Okay, so back in the meeting notes, is there anything, did I put, let me look here, if I put anything about there about kubeadmin, that's another story. So let's see, where I said 3 separate areas of concern. Okay, so one is the API ref docs and kube control command docs, that's Phil Whitrock's tool. Then the all other ref docs down at the bottom we've just been talking about. And in the middle we have kubeadmin ref docs, and this is Fabrizio's work. There's a PR, and I've done an edit pass on this, so that's all in progress. But what that does is there are a bunch of automatically generated files that don't get published as those files, but they get blended in as includes to manually authored files. So he's like greatly expanding the kube control docs, and I think it's a good effort.
Okay, so just to be clear, we should give Fabrizio the thumbs up to go ahead with this PR.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, was my thought as well.
Quick question on that.
Yeah.
Just one little tidbit. Fabrizio has asked, should he change where he drops those files? Because I think he was putting them in a specific location, and we've decided maybe we want it under admin/generated or something. If we want him to update that, now is the time to let him know.
Yeah, I've been in his PR over the last several days, and we're having that discussion right now.
Okay.
We can click on that PR if you want to just take a quick look at it. It's at the bottom there.
Sure. Let me share my screen again. Okay, what specifically did you want to look at, Steve?
Oh, I keep forgetting to look here. Okay, let's look at the list of files. Okay, so if we go down a little bit, we see all these underscore. So see this thing called underscore, you know, kubeadmin dot. You know, there are a zillion of those. Those are auto-generated, and they have to live somewhere in our repository. But they just serve as includes into the like 3 or 4 manually generated files. And I can see that he hasn't moved them yet. We've been discussing where to put these, so we're going to put them under docs, reference,
Generated?
Not quite, because he can't. The fact that these are used as includes means they can't be. They have to be in a child directory. So anyway, if we look, anybody who's interested can look through the comments in this PR, and we're having this discussion about where to put these things. But they won't be in admin because we're trying to make admin go away.
Okay.
They'll be somewhere under reference.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else that we need to talk about? Oh, yeah, there is. So, Steve, I think the proposal doc that you wrote saying hey, this is a high-level overview of what's out there, and here are suggestions for what we can do in Q4, in Q1. I think that is an excellent proposal, and you know, like as your proposal or as your overview today pointed out, there's just a lot going on that we don't really get. And as we have dug through all of these layers of functionality, I think just making sure that we actually understand what is happening and what is doing what is the first step. So everybody, there is. I highly encourage you to check out the link in the meeting notes to Steve's doc proposal for auto-generated docs, as it seems really solid to me, and I think Steve, you have a really good idea of what's going on there, and thank you also to Joe Heck and to Andrew for really contributing towards our greater shared understanding of what automated docs, what our own automated docs look like.
It's a huge step for us just to be able to do this ourselves, because just last time we didn't know how this was done, and we had to ask the engineering team, could you please help us come up with ref docs, and so I think that's a great step forward. And one other thing I forgot to mention is there's a whole different chapter of this for Federation docs. I didn't even touch on that, but just so everybody knows, there are the Federation docs, Federation components and Federation API.
Okay. Yeah, just having all of this functionality documented for ourselves is a great first step. Okay, let's plan to revisit this at or shortly after the first of the year, and we can have sort of a state of automation summit.
Yeah, and at that point we'll have had the experience of making this happen for 1.9.
Right.
Sounds good to me.
Excellent. All right, Steve, I would love to pick your brain about what to do with all of this for 1.9, because that's coming up here pretty quickly.
Okay.
Okay. Is there anything else? Paris was here earlier and she left. I would love to get her input on all of our stuff. But is there anything else that we need to discuss today? Anything else that anybody wants to talk about? No? All right. Well, if you're in the US, happy short week, happy Thanksgiving. Chinese localization monthly summit is on Monday morning after Thanksgiving. So if you are interested in the Chinese localization monthly meeting.
I thought we moved it to the evening. So that they
yes, you are absolutely correct. It is on Monday evening, not Monday morning, because that would be dumb. All right. Hearing nothing else, let's call this a meeting. All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Happy Thanksgiving.
Bye.
Bye.